Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Abigail, and today Cassidy is going to be discussing the topic of feeling overwhelmed and exhausted while pairing that with being a doer and being able to have the discernment of, am I just tired because I have a lot on my plate, or am I overwhelmed and need to cut something out, or what do I do? So Cassidy, please take us on this.
Yes, I think that the base of this episode is the question, have we overcomplicated solutions to finding true rest? We want to put a billion systems into place, and yet we will still feel absolutely overwhelmed. We're trying to juggle everything that's on our plate. And our main verse is going to be from Matthew 11:28 that says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, I will give you rest."
I love that.
And I was digging into a specific devotional on Matthew 11:28, and she had some really interesting thoughts that I hadn't thought through specifically on that. So I'm going to share a little bit into her devotional. It's from The Way of the Wildflower by Ruth Jo Simons, and we will have a couple of things from her. She pointed out that Jesus didn't say, like, let me fill up your coffee cup so you can run like harder and longer. Or it didn't say, like, here, I will give you a whole 8-week calendar, exactly how things are going to go for you. Like, he didn't say, like, anything very specifically practical, directly, like, here, you can run for a lot longer, harder. And no, he said, come to me. And I will give you rest. And so all of these practical systems that we try to put into place, like, maybe they are helpful in some ways,
Right.
but what about true rest? Like, we can only find true rest when we're coming into Jesus and finding Him. Have you ever thought in the overwhelm, when you're wishing for a break, that you're wishing for a chance to fill up your own cup for once, and you cry out, God, please sustain me. Like, I really need strength right here and right now for what you're calling me to do. And another way that we might be able to rephrase this is that God can give us physical rest from the overwhelm, but first, He wants to give us spiritual rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our human tendency is that we want to look everywhere else first for rest. The tangible things, the things that we can feel, the things that we can see, and maybe even looking internally, like, if only I was strong enough to carry this on my own, or maybe if I gain enough knowledge, study enough blog posts on how to do this even better and faster, then I wouldn't feel overwhelmed.
Right.
But it's going to look for Him, Jesus Christ, first, because He's the real sustainer in all of this here. Okay, so our first point is that overwhelm doesn't mean that you necessarily have to drop things out of your schedule.
What? You mean I don't have to cut everything out?
No, because literally sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking through this, and a lot of times they will tell overwhelmed people, just keep chopping things out until you don't feel overwhelmed. Then if you're so busy, then maybe you should cut back your busy schedule. Okay. Realistically, if you're a mom, you're busy and overwhelmed with your kids on a daily basis.
Which kid am I going to send away today?
Exactly. You cannot just drop all of your things sometimes. Or if you're a college student and you're enrolled in your max amount of
Classes.
like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you have to just trek through the hard things and get it done.
Yeah.
And it's a learning process to learn how you can take these things on your plate and do them well. So this is just kind of a side note into, like, feeling super busy, and I'm curious if you felt the same way. So when we were early married, we didn't have a lot of things to go and do, yet we felt so busy. Like, we always said, oh yeah, we're just, like, really busy. And then we had kids, and we were wanting to connect with different friendships, and we're like, we literally just can't. We have so much, like, going on, and it's like a new kind of busy.
Yeah.
But in those early stages of marriage, like, we thought we were busy. And then, like, your busy just keeps expanding, and you're like, well, it's a new kind of, like, did you feel that kind of shift in your marriage into having kids?
Somewhat. I would say that, like, while I was working, that it was like, okay, this is really busy. And that was true, being very busy. But I think that now having kids, almost more than being busy, it adds just another element that kind of complicates things. Where, okay, are we going to bring the kids with us? Are the kids going to also have a fun time? Or do we need to find a babysitter? And so it adds all of these elements that weren't there before. And so to one degree, you may or may not be the same busy as you were then, but now it's a lot more challenging and you have to be a lot more creative. And I think that that's what most people don't realize, is that life is going to get more complicated. And busy and complicated, I think sometimes are synonymous because they both add in roadblocks and time constraints.
Yeah, I like how you said that. But I did want to put in like a little encouragement plug for the younger college age kiddos.
Yeah.
That I often hear from that age group is that I'm so busy I can't commit to one more thing, or like specifically we're talking about serving God in your summers. And that's the perfect age group with so much energy to go and serve. So of course we're asking you to come and join us. But we often hear, I'm too busy. And we're looking into your life like, you don't know what busy is yet.
Right, and it's like, it's not complicated. You're not married, so you don't have to answer to a spouse. You don't have kids, so you don't have to find a babysitter or answer to them. And that's the big thing is, at each stage of our life, we're trying to protect our quiet time and our downtime, which is fine, okay? It's okay to have rest. But yes, if you are younger, you need to realize that you truly do have the most freedom that you will ever have. And so when it comes
use this time.
Yeah, to making things fit in your schedule, it is going to be easiest when you're single or before you have kids.
Yeah, so there's your encouragement.
Do it.
For you.
Do those
it's
crazy
just
things.
Sign up for the things. Do it now, and you will never be less busy. And I was encouraged by my mom even recently when I was deciding to step into something new. She's like, you won't have... I was like, maybe I should do it when the kids are... No. She's like, no, you will not be less busy. Like, do it now. And I was really encouraged by that because I was like, I don't know if I can...
Yeah.
If God is calling me to it, He will sustain me through the thing.
Right.
And so sometimes we have to say yes, and you have to learn how to take on things, and it might feel overwhelming. And so that's why we're talking about, what do we do when we feel so overwhelmed?
Right. And I mean, you started off too of, we can implement different planning systems, and those are good. But ultimately, we need to go back to Christ as our sustainer. And then when we use that together of, okay, I'm working on my time management, I'm learning to not be on my phone at this time, and I can accomplish this and this task, but I'm also leaning on the Lord to open doors or to close doors and to guide and direct me.
Yes. So here's a specific encouragement from the devotional that Ruth had to say, is that if overwhelm makes you feel like you're going to crack, that sometimes we must whisper prayers, Jesus, I need your help. I cannot do this on my own. Please show me what the next right step is. I am weary. I'm handing it to you. I'm trusting you, Jesus, that you're going to give me the rest. And thank Him for the opportunities that we have. So when we exchange our management for His mastery, we move from burdened and overwhelmed to freedom. Our next point here that I wanted to talk about is that overwhelm's roots might actually be found in misplaced worship. She says this: the rest that Jesus offers is not a temporary kind of relief from a busy schedule or a taxing season. It's so much more, and it's so much better than that. So it's saying that Jesus's relief that He can offer us is not a temporary system of trying to do our time management. It's something deeper. She goes on to explain this exhaustive circle of the very weighed down burden of rule following that the Pharisees had implemented into their culture, being worn out by religious standards. So if we're going into the context of Matthew 11, where Jesus is speaking to the people, this is where He's speaking into them. Come to me who are weary and burdened by these religious standards. Come to me and I will give you rest. And so That's where I'm plugging this in right here. This is into the actual context of the verse. Is like they were worn down by their people pleasing, really, and trying to match a specific standard of religion, and you can't. And so you're just going in this exhaustive spiral, and you can never find satisfaction in it.
I know, we talk about having, there's so many expectations on wives and mothers and women today. Let me tell you, you start looking into the rules that the Pharisees had, and I mean, just the Jewish legal system. God created the law to show the people that you can't do this. It is impossible to fulfill. But then the Pharisees put so many additional laws on it. And I don't know if you have lived in a Jewish community or are familiar, but today, especially if you go in Milwaukee, there's a really big Jewish community.
Okay.
And on Saturdays, they're walking to the church or to the temple, and they're going into worship, and they're not allowed to start a car, and they're not allowed, and there's all these extra things that are pushed on. And yes, it's all truly in the name of, I have to follow this rule. It's crazy to think about all the rules that people put themselves under with the guise of, this is what success looks like.
And specifically Romans, I am digging into it a little bit deeper than I have before, and it is Paul breaking down their lies of walls built around religious standards.
Yeah, one by one, he's breaking apart the arguments.
And he punches through this argument. He's like, no, that's not true about the law. Like, only Jesus can save you. The law has nothing to really give you. And then he says, but the law is still holy. The law is still good, to follow. But the extra things that have been added on, it doesn't bring you salvation. There's only hope found in Jesus Christ. Not one of you is good, by the way. And so I've been enjoying going through Romans and actually understanding what Paul is telling the people. And so he's saying you cannot do anything in your own power to make yourself clean, better, worthy, to be found spotless enough to bring yourself to Jesus in your own strength, even in your own perfection, your own doing. So instead of doing all of the things perfectly to approach Jesus, it's the same command to come to him, to simply believe. And I love that. It's like there's nothing that you have to do more or harder or more striving. All you have to do is come to Jesus with a faith, with a belief for what Jesus did for you. And that's the same thing that Jesus expressed himself in Matthew 11. It's come to me. I will give you rest. Was there anything that we had to do other than come to him? And so that's where we're talking about following all of the rules that are overwhelming you or this and that. You cannot strive harder or longer. What you have to do is simply come to Jesus Christ. Stop overcomplicating. I kind of introed us with that, is that I think we're overcomplicating a lot of things about how to find true rest in our overwhelm. And so really, just stop complicating the way to find rest and peace. We can come to Jesus for forgiveness. We can come to him for spiritual healing. And it's just, that's the end of the story. There's nothing more that we need to add.
Right. We're constantly looking at social media and Pinterest and all these different pages that show us this is how you know you're getting it done. This is how you know you're being a successful mom or a successful college student or whatever. And it's a lot of those things are good. They might be efficient and they might make life nice, but they're overcomplicating things and you end up adding more. It's I never needed to do this in the first place.
I was trying to think of examples in the Bible where people may have felt overwhelmed, and I was thinking about Mary and Martha's example, where it was kind of made up overwhelm. You didn't have to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I relate to this way too much, Martha. And I saw it in a new light when I thought of Martha as overwhelmed, being a doer. She was trying to do a lot of things that was going to be really nice for Jesus.
Yeah. And
she was trying to serve in her own way. But then she yells at Mary, saying, why aren't you helping me? And Jesus is come rest over here, Martha. Come take a break. You don't have to do all of the things. Okay. And I think that men, maybe specifically mine, has really been helping me grow in the fact that I'm trying to do all of these things, and he's like, you know what, it doesn't have to be done that way. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean in order to have people over, or just trying to do my regular standards. He's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And so I've created my own overwhelm. I've created my own rules, and sometimes it's okay to have piles of dishes by your sink, because maybe that means that I was more present with my kids that day and playing with them, and it doesn't have to be spotless. It's lived in.
You don't have somebody coming in to inspect your house. Like, yes. You're not in college anymore with the, the dorm supervisors. Yeah.
And so, in specifics of bringing overwhelm to those who just keep trying to do and do, if you're a doer like me, Jesus says, surrender it to me. Hand it over to me, and I will give you rest. And so you're handing something over, and in exchange, you receive rest. And so it's the idea that we're holding all of these things really close and tight to us, and we're afraid to give it over. Like, because maybe Jesus is going to make me give it away. It's really coming down to, this could be a heart issue. A third point, that overwhelm, being misplaced worship, can lead us into farther sin. I'm thinking more along the lines here that if we get overwhelmed, what sin does it lead us into?
Sure.
And I think that this directly impacts with overreacting.
Right.
And our responses that we have to being overwhelmed. And again, this is where my husband is helping me grow as a wife and a mom, and it's a beautiful thing of marriage, is that it helps you grow. And he's been pointing out to me that my reactions are way overboard. He's like, you are overreacting, hon. Like, I'm not talking about anger, although, yes, I do have bouts of anger, so I'm not saying I'm perfect on that. I'm talking about, let me give you an example. So we're walking into church with our kiddos. I'm holding the hand of my second, and up in front of me is my husband. He walks fast.
So you're trying,
I'm trying so hard to keep up with him, and I love being with him on Sunday. It's a beautiful day, and la la la. And so I'm trying to keep up with my 2-year-old, now he's 3, my 3-year-old, and he trips on the sidewalk because I'm like, come on, let's go.
Yanking him along.
Yes, and he trips on the sidewalk, and he doesn't, he's going to scrape his knee if he falls. And so I yanked his arm up, not the thing to do because you can dislocate elbows, okay? But I yank him up, and I gasp. I'm like, and my husband turns around, and he gives me the look. We've already been talking about this overreacting thing, okay? He looks at me like, relax. Like, you are overreacting to the situation. And I'm like, I felt so terrible. Because now the kid is crying because his elbow hurts. He's like, Mom! Yes. And I'm trying to be in control of the situation. I'm trying to make sure that we're not crying and that we don't have scraped knees. In my mind, I'm doing the best thing for you. But I'm overreacting and making the situation really a lot worse than it needed to be. If I would just calm my mind and bring it into the submission of Jesus Christ and finding rest in Him, I don't have to be in control. I made up the overwhelm here, okay? I didn't have to make it into this whole thing, and here I am making a small moment into something bigger. Another example would be spilling the milk. It's really not a big deal, but in our mind, we're overwhelmed, we're overtouched from our day, and we just start spewing words of how dare you,
it's such a big mess, and now we have, it really starts to spiral.
Yes. Maybe you're on the road and it's road rage for you, and it's well, I'm just overwhelmed by their terrible driving habits. See, I found one that she connects.
Yeah, I can relate to road rage.
And so really the point is, when we bring Christ into our overwhelm, it's going to change our reactions. It's going to change the way that we think. It's going to change our heart first, rather than all of these systems. Jesus wants our heart. And so how can we fix where it starts to come out with, yes, I can have rest. I can react in a way that is God honoring. When I was on the topic of studying overwhelm in the last few days, I've been trying to implement, because I'm learning this too, but I'm trying to implement things that I'm teaching. And I was pretty overwhelmed thinking about how a disaster my house was and trying to finish this task. I have a lot of things coming up. And I started huffing in a usual, so much to do, I feel overwhelmed. And I paused because this has been fresh in my mind. And I was like, you know what if I surrendered what I have to Jesus and just took it one step at a time?
Sure.
And I was having it continually reminded, come to Jesus. He can give me the rest. And it's reframing in your brain, what's the most important thing? Is it that my floor is spotless? Is it that my dishes are all done? Is it really worth being all worked up over? And it's like, it's not. And so stop creating your own overwhelm. And when you bring in a heart of surrender, you can have more peace as you do your tasks. It was a moment that it could have been frustrated tears and huffing and puffing, that when you change your heart attitude about it, it turned into a moment of worship, because then I'm meditating on verses that I have been trying to learn, or you're thinking about things of Christ instead of your own plans, your own control, your own way of doing things. So going on to our next point is how overwhelm can actually be seen as a gift. I'm like, what? This is what I learned in my devotional reading. And she says, because Jesus bore our sins on the cross, God's grace doesn't just free us from the penalty and the burden of our sin, it also makes us alive to a new way of believing, a new way of thinking and living. If right believing and right living were attainable through human effort, we wouldn't need a savior. Amen. It is a gift to feel overwhelmed if that overwhelm leads you to surrender.
Yeah, what a good keyword, if.
If, yes. And so overwhelm is in the category of things that you can reframe into as a gift. Kind of in the same way about how suffering produces the gift of steadfastness. What a gift to rely on our God and see that He is enough for us. I loved how she pointed that to the cross and saying, like, if we could do all of our right living and handling everything on our own, like, we wouldn't see our need for a savior. And that itself is a huge gift. Our final point here is that we have to replace overwhelm with truth. And this can be compared to the concept that when you're dealing with uprooting lies in your life, you can't just get rid of the lies. You got to replace the lies with truth. And this is kind of, I got into physics thinking on this point. And I'm not into physics by any point. I was just like, hey, this kind of seems like when you take something away, like the laws of nature, something fills its place.
Right.
And so it's the same thing when we are giving up our control, we're giving up our overwhelm, and it's replaced with the rest of Jesus Christ. So there's two pathways, if you want to think of it that way, is that overwhelm is going to be replaced with something. Like, what are you going to replace it with? Are you going to replace it with your own power, or are you going to replace it with surrender in Jesus Christ?
Right.
And so you have to replace it with something, so choose the path that you want to take.
And I think make sure that you replace it.
Yes, it has to be replaced. So my point is that we're handing over overwhelm. Let Him fill you then, and all of the gaps that will replace it with rest and peace. If things aren't able to physically change, circumstances don't have to change for us to have rest and peace, because we're sitting here saying, like, you don't have to give up all of your overwhelming things.
I would definitely agree with that. I can think of so many different seasons that's exactly what it is. It's a season and it's tough, but then being able to remind yourself of that truth of, this is not a long time, we're going to get through it. And then also remembering, hey, this is something that the Lord has for me, and where He puts me, He'll equip me for it. And that alone, it does give peace. It gives a sense of, okay, I'm not carrying this all on my own. The Lord is sustaining me. He's holding me up. I feel physically tired, but I don't have to be overwhelmed by this. My life is not out of control. It's very much so in control, And I think that that's important for us as well, is don't confuse being physically tired with everything is out of control. It's okay to feel tired. You know,
Yes.
that's a good sign that at the end of the day, your body is fatigued, you've worked hard, and that's healthy. It's okay.
Romans 8:4 is the final point that I wanted to touch on today, and it is specifically the verse that I've been memorizing in the last few days. And it says, in order that the righteous requirement might be fulfilled in us, who walk not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. And so this is where Paul is really putting a bow on how we cannot be fulfilled in the law, that only Jesus is fulfilling us with his salvation. That's the only way that we come to him. And then he says, who walk not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. And so that's where I said that there is this V in the road that we're going to have to choose. Are we going to walk by the flesh, or are we going to walk by the Spirit? Mm-hmm. And what a peace that I felt this week when I decided to walk by the Spirit. That is so encouraging. Something that my commentary was saying about this specific verse is that when we allow the flesh to reign over the Spirit, we find ourselves bound by sinful patterns and desperation that marked Paul's life, where he talked about a Romans 7 struggle. And it is our walk, the pattern of our life must be according to the Spirit and not according to the flesh. Amen. And something that I loved that it pointed out here is the specific word is that we find ourselves bound by the sinful patterns and desperation. And that's exactly where we're at with feeling overwhelmed. It's like a desperate spirit. It's like, what do I do? And so let's choose to walk according to the Spirit instead of walking in the flesh. We have a song of the week for us this week, and it is called Overwhelmed by Big Daddy Weave is the artist there. And I was asking Abigail, hey, what song should we use as the song of the week? And she was like, Overwhelmed, like, duh. And we were like, oh, well, how does that fit in? And the song obviously talks about how we're overwhelmed, but not in the flesh.
Right.
We're talking about how Jesus, I'm overwhelmed by you, by your presence, by what you're doing. And it's just an awestruck overwhelm by who he is. And so I think that's a good song for us to meditate on this week as we think about overwhelm. Take a breath. We don't have to be overwhelmed. We can control, and we do get to choose which path we're going to choose.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cassidy. Hey, it's Abigail. Find us on Instagram at 10.thrive and leave us a comment. Give us a take it or leave it. Let us know if you found any fruit in this episode or if we got a little lost in the weeds.